another episode of Pessimistic at Best. I am your host, Samantha Georgeson, and I have a super special guest with me today. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Sam.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm very excited for this. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but one of the things we're going to focus on today is the service industry because we both have experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I just want to give Adam a little introduction. Adam and I have known each other since, I think, like early high school, and then we were even roomies.
We were bunkmates. Kayla.
And now we're here doing this podcast, so that comes full circle, doesn't it?
It does. Well, hopefully it doesn't end, you know.
Circles are infinite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you just keep going around.
I like that. I like that. Like that.
Okay, so let's discuss early jobs because,
you had a job early.
I did. Well, I guess I'm trying to think how old I was. I was probably like 15 or 16. How old can you be to get a job?
16. Well,
16.
It was, okay, so I remember I was either going to work at Metcalf's or Cops at the time. Mm-hmm. And at Metcalf's, you could work
Which
with
is a grocery store, for those of you who don't know.
Yep. You could get a permit or something. You still have to get a work permit regardless. But you could get something special at Metcalf's where you could work at like 15 but just be a bagger solely.
Oh,
but I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
So they were like
waited.
little, okay, so I must have been 16.
So I was 16 too, yeah.
Yeah, it feels
but not
like
a lot of people
like
get jobs, I feel like.
No, and not all my friends had them. Some people did, some people didn't. I guess a decent amount of my friends. And weirdly, everyone got restaurant jobs. Like, that was, like, the job.
Mine wasn't restaurant. Yeah, mine was grocery store.
Yeah.
Well, people maybe it was middle school that Metcalf's you could even get as a bagger. Because I feel like I remember talking about it in middle school.
Middle school?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like 8th grade. So it was, like, weird. So I feel like there was some law for something, but...
That's for sure illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think of it. Never mind, maybe. But I never did it, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I did grocery store.
Yeah. I guess, like, I know people who worked at grocery stores because, like, it was always kind of a good gig if you could get, like, Woodman's because they actually paid a lot.
They paid a lot of money because it was family owned. But
it's also kind of
I
scary.
remember the minimum wage was $7.25 when I got my first job and I was so excited.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I was making.
Yeah, $7.25. Sure. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, because I got a job at Quibi's, which is this it's like a funky little restaurant out in Verona. And so, like, a part of it is a barn. And a part of it is a house, and they're technically two separate restaurants. I mean, they're not, but they are. Like, you go for very different experiences. One of them is, like, the house is more fancy, steak and potatoes, and then the barn is more like burger and fries vibes.
Rustic. Yeah.
And I basically only worked in the barn, and I was a hostess. I worked there for, like, a solid chunk, and I don't know, like, it was just so hard. I remember it was easily, to this day, the most stressful job I've ever had.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like the servers were maybe in a bad mood sometimes.
Always.
The cook really liked me. His name was Johnny. He was so sweet, and he would sometimes make me meals afterwards. He was a nice guy. But everyone else was kind of scary, you know? And, like, that was also one of those restaurants where no one else was really my age. Like, I was the youngest person,
That's
for sure.
tough.
Yeah.
Mine was different. So, like, I did Cops, which is also Pick and Save. And
yes.
Roundy's is big, so maybe people know, like, Roundy's is in the Midwest. I did that, and working at a grocery store, I learned so much super quick. Just because I was actually, I was 16, and all of my coworkers were college students, because I worked at the one on University, right by the campus. So I worked with all college students. And by the time that I was 17, I got so bored of cashiering. Honestly, I'm going to toot my own horn, but I was the best cashier. I was like...
Adam is always the best at what he does.
Tried to, at least. Work-wise, at least.
You are. You put a lot into work. Yeah.
I was so bored, and so I went to my manager, or I went to my favorite coworker that was also like... So, like, I was a cashier, and you know how, like, there's people behind the desk that do, like, returns, answer the phones, and walk around with, like, keys around their, like, arm? So the service desk, there's two people. There's a CSR and a service desk. The CSR is like the floor manager, the front end manager. And I was like, I at least need to do something. But you have to normally be 18 because you can't scan alcohol.
Right.
And funny story, tonight actually I picked up the wine at Pick and Save.
Hilarious.
And the girl it was really, really busy. And the girl couldn't check me out because she was under 18. And I was just like thinking in my head, I remember.
Throwback,
Throwback, So that was my issue. I could not scan alcohol. And I went up to my manager and I was like, I feel so unfulfilled. I'm not happy. Like I
God,
either need to be promoted to
and you were 16.
Service desk. I was 17.
17. Okay.
I was like, I need to be promoted to a service desk or I'm going to quit because I was just pissed. I was over it. And then she was like, we can make that happen because all we need is someone over the age of 18 that can scan alcohol.
Okay.
Then stay there until 9 because
and
Wisconsin.
Like swap out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Then you can't buy alcohol.
So we would have like a couple baggers that would be over the age of 18 that could scan alcohol, and I could do everything else because.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then
I didn't know you asked.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Oh, I was pissed.
You don't get what you don't ask for, folks.
Exactly. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yes. Oh my God. I learned that from you just in this moment.
There you go. So that was fun. But yeah, I stayed there until I quit before I was 18 because I was so fed up with it. Because working at a grocery store, which I was a service desk, so I dealt with like returns and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And think of having a 17-year-old as a manager.
As your manager, yeah.
As your manager.
Oh my God. And there were also probably like just like grown men and women.
Oh no, I remember there was like old women. And like anyone that the first time you get into a managerial position, you understand that you go through a power trip.
Oh, for sure.
And 17-year-old me, could you imagine 17-year-old me? I
little boss Adam.
Honestly, it was my other like Zoe has like pictures of me. She just posted one of like posted up cops where I'm like behind the desk. Like I worked 3 to 11s where it was just like the things that I was in charge of were insane. There were times where I'd be closing the day at 11 p.m. and like I'd be doing the books for the night and like
that's like on a school night.
On a school night.
Yeah.
And like the safe would be under $10,000 and I'd have to figure out why. What went wrong in the day? Who messed up? Who fucked up? Yeah. I quit and I went back, and this time I was 18, and that was actually easier because the people that I worked, because there were people that were pissed when I got moved up when I was 7, and so now coming back, I didn't know. Yeah, I know. I really honestly, going back, it was easier because I could scan alcohol. There was one time that always sticks out with me. There was one group of people that came in late at night at like 10 p.m. and they were arguing about a price of the grapes that were on sale or whatnot. So I called produce. And produce was like, yeah, no, these are not on sale, what they're talking about. And I was like, okay. And I told the people, and they were like, no, I insisted. So I walked over there myself. Make sure I see with my own eyes, yeah, no, grapes are like this. I come back. They have a sale sign. They must have grabbed from like the trash or something.
Like outside?
Outside or something from past. And they were hoarding them, and they bring them in so they can get discounts.
Oh, yeah. People do the most ridiculous shit like that.
You talked about that at the bookstore with me? Yeah.
Which is technically service industry too, like retail.
Any customer service.
Yeah.
Customer service, which you had to do as a host.
Yeah. Hosting was way more stressful in my opinion. Like I think just like the fast pace was not for me. I don't know, like weirdly enough, people going out to eat, like if for some reason you fuck up a night at a restaurant, you like really mess it up. Like it's like bad. It
takes a toll. And so yeah, like with Granite, like I knew I wanted to get out of the grocery store. I was done. I was done. And I knew I wanted to do grocery store because I knew I wanted to do restaurants because I knew when I turned 18 I wanted to serve because I heard you'd make a lot of money serving.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let me host at the restaurant first, which I highly recommend if you want to serve. Host at the restaurant first.
Yeah.
Because I learned, and I hosted at Benvenuto's and Granite at the same time.
Oh.
I did both jobs at the same time. I worked every day in high school, my senior year of high school. I did 6 days.
Oh my God.
And then.
Like how?
I loved working.
Yeah, you did.
I loved working.
And that's why you're burnt out.
I know, right? Honestly, now that's why, because I worked 6 days in high school. And then when I turned 18, I was like, which one am I going to serve at? And then I chose Granite. And so I quit Benvenuto's then. Okay. So I was only at Benvenuto's for like 5 months. And then I went to Granite. And then I served there. But that's when you say that restaurant people are ruthless.
Yeah. Oh.
That's also why I recommend hosting first, because I got into the graces of good.
That's true.
And I knew all the servers.
Especially if you don't have serving experience.
If you do not have serving experience, other servers are ruthless and will tear you to shreds.
Yeah.
100%. There's no
It's a very catty industry.
It's a catty industry, but it's like what I was also saying, it's like a cult. Like when I was very lucky because when I served at Granite, I could ask the servers for help. I could ask dumb questions where, like, if a new person asked them that, they'd be like, fuck off. Like, that's literally the attitude. It's like, who is this person? Get them away from me. Don't talk to me because you're in a groove.
Yeah.
It's like...
I guess that's true.
Like, people at Dottie's and Granite literally say that I'm a robot. It's a switch, and it's
okay,
weird.
but you are.
It is weird. I get it. It's weird because it's a switch that just comes on where it's like, I kind of literally black out. There are times where I literally just black out and I can't.
You just do your job and then you come home and you're like, what just happened?
Literally, there was shifts of like, whoa. There was one instance and my coworker Nicola so it was such a long shift, and there was some concert. It was who?
Wait, why do I remember this?
The Lumen. It was after that. I lived when we were living together.
Yes.
You know at Dottie's how busy it is at game days.
Yes.
Where it's like you cannot move.
Yeah.
It's like it's a small, tiny. It's a burger.
Small restaurant.
Yeah, it's a small restaurant.
And it's like, I don't know. It already feels crowded. There aren't a ton of windows or
19
anything.
tables in there.
Yeah.
But it's like it's one of the busiest restaurants in Madison because it's so renowned and so.
It's so popular. It's like it's a Madison staple.
Mm-hmm. So like we literally turned our backs and we turned around and the whole restaurant was completely full and it was just her and I, where we usually have like 6 servers, 3 bartenders, like 3 managers, 3 hosts, God, 7 kitchen people, and it was just her and I, and we completely filled. And she I would be the stronger of the two.
Sure.
And so she looks at me and I just see the life just go out of her eyes.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she goes, we need sections, and I said, it's too late.
Yeah.
Just go.
Free for all.
I don't know. Poor thing. She could only take a couple. I don't even remember how many tables I took. I think I took like 9. And like, I have no memory. It was just, I blacked out.
That's insane.
Or there was another time.
I can't even imagine that.
At Granite, I was the only server that knew what to do. This is when I did parties. I did 2 20 tops at the same time.
I can't think of a worse
and
thing.
an 8 top. All at the same time. And I just remember running. I ran like half of my food, but I was just literally running in circles.
Oh, yeah. You know, and doing parties, I remember as a host when parties come in, it's so scary because you don't want to give it to anybody because you know they're going to be mad at you.
See, and that's a weird thing because it's like there's some servers, it depends on the mood. I love it. I love when I did it.
You love parties sometimes?
I loved them because it was a guaranteed money.
I guess that's true.
It was a guaranteed check, and especially if they're one check. Especially if,
if there's no kids.
Exactly.
If there's kids with the party, that's bad news.
God, at Granite City, we'd have like teams come in, and it would be like sports teams. It would be like a 50 top with like 25 kids, and then like as a host, we would take 75 people. We'd fill the restaurant.
Oh my God.
With kids, and it would be so annoying because it would have to be separate checks.
Yep.
And the parent would be like, "We're just gonna name off our numbers." So like they would be like, "This parent has 2, 24, 38, 2." And we'd have to coordinate with other servers.
Like their jerseys?
Yes, their jersey numbers. Yes.
I can't think of anything worse. That's why you shouldn't put your kids in sports, folks.
So, like, honestly, I really wanted to really come on here and just do like the main part. I would say is like because like we always bitch and complain, and it's like. We always forget, it's like, this is for anyone that goes out to, like, the do's and don'ts of just, like, what's going on in the servers, because it's so...
And people, it's really interesting how little I feel like people who, I mean, I guess there are plenty of people who have never had to go into the service industry ever in their lives, but that's such a foreign concept to me. Like, I feel like because I had to do that, even just as, like, a host, or even now when I go shopping, like, you know, I tip really well, or if I knock a shirt off the fucking rack, I put it back on, because fuck that. Like, I just feel like you have, like, that takes such a toll on you personally that then I am now such a much better consumer because I know what they're going through. And it's, like, crazy to me that people can be so oblivious. Like,
but then again, it's like, I guess I don't know if I would have known if I didn't work in the industry.
I guess.
Like,
that's true.
It's absolutely insane how, because so many people don't fucking understand, like, it's draining.
It is.
It's draining.
Hosting was so stressful, and also, I will say, too, I would think I would rather do it at a restaurant like Dottie's. Small, you can see the whole lay of the land. Like, we had stairs, and I never knew who was still up there or who wasn't. Or like...
Well, I guess the hosts at Dottie's don't have to deal with it. We have death stairs at Dottie's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do.
Death stairs at Dottie's, where it goes to our basement, where we have to carry massive bus bins. And the girls there are like wearing heels, and like I'm like, if you fall down those stairs, you're dead.
You're screwed.
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, so we had barn stairs, like rickety.
No.
I remember like a couple times when either bussers or even some of the wait staff, if they would be kind of like helping us just bus a table really quick with like a tray just on one shoulder, walking down the stairs and completely bust their ass.
I fell with a tray of food.
I like can't think of anything worse.
That's the only time I ever dropped.
I like saw that happen to one of my coworkers once, and in my head in that moment I was like, if that ever happens to me, I'm quitting on the spot. I'm quitting on the spot.
It was so bad.
You will never see me again.
I will never. It was at Granite, and I was still a new server. It was a grease stain because we were obviously you wear non-slip shoes for water, but they don't always protect against grease.
They don't.
So I had a tray of food because the server came out and made eye contact, and we talked right before because he saw that I had his food, because that's what you do is in a restaurant, you run each other's food.
Yeah, it really is a team effort.
It's a team effort. It's a family, and yes, like what I was saying, it's more of like a cult.
Yeah.
But he looked at me, he's like, Adam, go charm him with your smile because this is a cranky table.
Ooh.
Fucking not face paint, but I drop their food completely in front of them and they see it. It's so bad. Yeah, I like literally, the only thing I remember is I'm on the floor, the tray is like, food is upside down completely next to me.
Of course.
But the good thing about that night is all my tables, because I was in the section next to it, saw it happen to me, but it wasn't their food, so they tipped me really well.
Yeah, then, that's true.
Yeah.
See, okay, as a host, I wouldn't get that. I don't get the tip. I guess I get tipped out.
But see,
like,
yeah, you get tipped out. And that's another thing, which we can talk about, is tipping. That's another thing I feel like people don't understand is how essential tipping is.
Well, and I also just, like, I don't think it even goes into consideration that, yes, this is obviously I guess a measure of your waiter's performance, sure, whatever, but like not really. Like this is just like you had an overall good experience. Here you are, not having to do the work of making a meal yourself. And so you should just be tipping. And also, they don't receive the whole tip because they have to tip out. All of that needs to go into consideration. Like 20% is the minimum.
That's what I ever do. It could be this could be different for me because I do very much understand bad service, and I get bad service.
Sure.
But what I also understand is so I minimum will always tip 20% even if it's the worst service ever. Because if you think of it, everyone has bad days at your job.
Oh, totally.
Everyone has bad days with your attitude. Everyone has and no one can say otherwise. This is people's jobs. You know, there are days where people are gonna have a shitty fucking day.
Yeah.
It's gonna affect their work. It's it doesn't affect other people's pay. It does not affect your pay because you're getting hourly.
True.
It shouldn't always affect obviously there are times like that's like how I assume it. It's just because there are days where I have literally the shittiest fucking day and I know I'm not gonna which weirdly enough, when I have the shitty days is when I get the good tips.
Yeah.
And when I'm overly happy and trying, I get shitty tips. I think it's it's weird. There are times it's like where, okay, if like the restaurant is notorious for bad servers, or if if they're just straight up rude or like mean.
I've had that at Applebee's.
Yeah.
We hate Applebee's.
That's Mitchell's favorite restaurant.
But
I will say.
I'm glad you said that on here because everyone roasts him. If you know Mitchell.
But I will say their chicken fingers are fire.
Are they? Because the last time I was there, my mom's wine glass had lipstick on it, not hers, and also our booth smelled like diapers.
Okay.
Like baby diapers.
Yeah. The wine glass, I understand. I'm a bartender, so lipstick, so fucking hard to get outside of wine glasses.
You just have to.
Oh, but sometimes I can't see it. You can't see it because of the lighting, especially if how the light hits it. I couldn't see it at all, and we polish it and whatnot. You have to sometimes literally take a green part of a sponge and hand scrub it, because lipstick. I don't know what is in lipstick.
We have that issue at the salon a little bit too, because we do serve wine. Well, not right now, but
like think of it in a dark restaurant with lights are flashing. You can't see anything.
I guess.
But yes, it's gross.
It's worse
it's
at
still
Applebee's
gross. Yes, it's worse at
somehow.
Applebee's. But anyways, Applebee's. I don't even know how we got.
Well,
the straight up you're rude. Yeah. If you're rude or mean, that's like another thing. Or if like you see your server being lazy, like there's a difference. Like that's different. But like if you see your fucking server busting their ass, give them some fucking. There's been times where it's like I said, like you just go on autopilot and just like when you're at a restaurant, definitely there's like do's and don'ts.
Oh, totally.
It's like it's
that's what I'm saying. It's kind of crazy how often people don't actually live up to that, or like
the amount of times we get snapped at.
Oh yeah, that's so rude.
Or the hand motion in the air. It's the check. It's like great. And it's like I'm walking over with it too. That's the best.
Well, I always think that's so interesting because I feel like that's probably so much more common other places, but like here in the Midwest, you don't act like that toward people.
No.
You do not act like that toward you say something very nice. If you're trying to flag somebody down, you do it with a compliment of some kind. Like literally.
Bartender Akaya, who you know, the amount of times her and I just get snapped at and we just look at each other and we just
that is so rude.
It's just absolutely insane. It's like, come on.
I feel like it happens, especially for me at least, when the Coastie moms would come in. So like on like a game day or like
the
maybe
East Coast
when
moms.
Yes, like when a sorority would have parents' weekend or some shit like that. Then these, like out-of-state uppity moms would come, and they would come to the bookstore, and of course they're gonna go eat at Dotty's because that's like the best restaurant in Madison. So like we would see these people. They would come into the university bookstore, and if I would be working, I had this one woman flag me down. Like I remember doing something for her, and then she kept like wanting my opinion, and it was so fucking busy. It was a game day weekend. So many people are in the university bookstore trying to buy clothes, all this stuff, parents. Like insane, and then she's just like wanting my opinion, wanting all this stuff from me. I can't just like dote on you. And then she tried to flag me down across the store by yelling, "Hey, girl!" And I was like, "Absolutely not! I am not turning around for that." No.
There are times.
That to me.
There were times at Granite where I remember this one time specifically. There was this table that I had outside. But I had other tables inside, and they would not let me go. They were chatting my ear off. I had to have my coworkers, I had to tell them to come outside and give me an excuse to pull me inside so I could physically leave. The shit that you had to deal with, like I dealt with, it's just like you build a skin and it's not made up for everyone. Any customer service, it's a fake smile, and the memes are so fucking funny. It's like, I'm not smiling and laughing at your dumbass joke because I think I like you or I think the joke is funny. It's because I want a good fucking, which is true.
Yeah.
It's because servers make $2.33 an hour.
Yeah.
They rely on.
That is so low.
I know, it's so low. They rely on the tips, but like you said, it doesn't go to them 100%. You tip out the bartender, you tip out the busser. There's so many factors in it. It really depends.
And really, that system should be revised. It should just be a normal hourly wage and then tipping on top of that. Like tipping.
Exactly. Well, other states like Minnesota, you get like $9 an hour plus tip.
Do you?
Yeah. It depends on the state.
Be like that.
It's dependent on the state.
Wisconsin.
It's just
get it
like
together.
So it's like the times where we always say don't go out if you can't tip. It's like we're working, like we get, and like especially where
You're
the college
exactly,
and the young people that go out right now and are eating at restaurants and like good, like cool, but tip because now everything downtown is closed. Dottie's is like the college hotspot now. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like a group of 20 frat guys will come in or sorority chicks that are like literally I hear them talking about going to W and stuff like that, and I'm like crazy. And half the time there was a story I wasn't working at, but two of the servers working this group of 20 frat guys came in, racked up like a $200 tab, stayed past the time too. That's another point.
Yep.
Stayed past the time there. They were the only people there, and they I think like only tipped like $5 on like a $200 tab. Like, are you kidding me?
That.
Like that's absolutely ridiculous. Now that server lost money because one, they stayed there extra because it's going to taxes. The server check, I get checks for 15 cents when I was a server. It's like because you just get it
just all gets eaten.
Exactly. So it's like tip, and especially now, like don't go out. If you're at a restaurant, that's another thing. If you're the only table in there, servers will make it clear
they do.
They are ready to get the fuck out and go home. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Pay, ask for a box, chug your drink, get the fuck out, If it's busy and it's like, popping, obviously
if it's past time then it's okay.
Then it's fine. That's fine. Because then it's okay. But
you don't want to be the last table.
No. There are times right now, like, I have no problem working, but when I'm standing there, if we close at 9 and they come in at 8:50, and they know we close at 9, and they're like, oh yeah, thank God you're still open, we made it in time. It's like, you made it in time, but now you're 10 minutes to, if your job closes at 5, but if you come in 10 minutes before a restaurant, you're there until now 6. And normally, and people are like, oh, it must be so glad that you got that one table. Great, I made $3.
Exactly. I know.
Standing here an extra where I could have been home because it's like, so.
And if you're going to do something like that, then you
tip.
Especially better tip, double.
Tip.
Yeah.
Another thing, we were just talking about this. People, and which I don't think a lot of people understand, is if you're sitting there for so long at a table, like if you're sitting there, I would say more than an hour.
Yeah.
Start tipping more.
Yep.
Every, I would say even 20, 30 minutes, add on another 5-10% because
now it just doesn't matter about your bill.
No.
They could have had whatever, that's great if you're tipping a normal amount, awesome, but because they could have flipped that table, you could have done that same exact amount of money a second time. It's not
there are times where I've had like a two-top sit for 4 hours, their bill is like $30. They tip me $6. Hell, they'll even take me $8.
Yep.
Great, because that's a great tip. Yes, but I missed $20 tips.
Yeah.
Because bigger parties at those tables where I could be getting 6 tops, 8 tops, like whatever. So I just missed out on could possibly $50 up to $100.
Totally.
On a busy shift.
Yeah.
But which is super nice on Dottie's. We have hour limits. That's
do
super
you?
On game days. And because
necessary. Especially
turn
then,
people
because
out.
on days like that, everyone shows up drunk, so they're even more likely to overstay their welcome, like way
Exactly.
more. So that's really actually a smart rule.
It's just like, the drunk people at work.
Oh, so obnoxious.
Mifflin. I worked Mifflin Street.
It's a block party.
Yeah, it's a block party.
And everyone just gets hammered. That's basically the like activity of the day.
One of the craziest stories is like it was so busy, but this dude puked everywhere but inside the toilet, on top of the toilet, on the side of the toilet, in front of the toilet, on the floor. It's like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, people would yak in the bookstore as well. Like, drunk people would come into the bookstore, especially if it was like an earlier game, because then they would do all their shopping after. So then everyone would just be totally blasted. Coming in the store, it was always nice because those people do spend more money, but they're rowdy.
See, the drunk college kids, they would get kicked out so they couldn't even like tip.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's more like drunk parents.
Yeah.
Drunk parents will spend a lot of money, but they're really annoying, so you kind of have to weigh your options, because is it worth it? Not always. Like, not always.
Did I ever tell you how I got a buzzer thrown at me when I was hosting?
No.
So we did a Sunday brunch every Sunday at Granite.
Like a waiter, like waiting.
A fucking guest.
Oh,
So
no.
it's busy. We're on an hour and a half wait, mind you. So it's balls to the wall busy. Like, the bar is full, the seating area is full. People are waiting outside. This family comes in and they're like, how much is the wait? And I'm like, it's an hour and a half. And she was like, are you kidding me? Will you guys take reservations or call ahead? I was like, yeah, we actually do. And she was like, well, it would have been nice to know that. It's like, yeah, lady, I'm going to call every fucking person in Madison.
Yeah,
like,
and be
just
like,
let you know,
hey,
Granite City has call ahead seating.
If you're ever
if you're
thinking about
interested.
eating here.
Yeah, like, fuck you. I'm like, obviously you can see I'm fucking busy. And so she takes the buzzer and she goes, well, where am I supposed to sit? And I go, I don't know. Let me pull out this chair from my asshole and let you, or better yet, let me come behind the host stand and squat. Do you want me to sit? You want to sit on my lap? Let me make a fucking chair. I literally go, well, if you can find some bar chairs, like, unfortunately it's really busy. She goes, she goes and talks to her family. She walks out, chucks her buzzer at me and goes, you guys just lost business.
Oh my God.
I love it.
That is
That's
so
my
dramatic.
favorite comeback, when people say you just lost business, when you can clearly see that it's so busy that
we don't need your business, ma'am.
You coming really is going to affect our business. But thank you. And you just have to literally, in that industry, you have to just snap out of it and you just keep working.
I think that's also a reason I was not cut out for it. I don't have that mentality.
No.
And even like, okay, if a guest is mean to me, I would take that to heart. And even worse, if a coworker is mean to me, and it probably didn't even, like, the intentions weren't to be mean. Maybe they're just being short with me because they're busy.
Well, that's what we were talking about, the restaurant people.
Yeah, and then, like, I would just take that so to heart and be just, like, down. I'm not a restaurant girl.
See, and I just telling Samantha, if you worked in a restaurant, it's like a cult.
Yeah.
It really is, like, because you go through so much, and I don't think people understand how much you are wiped, you are drained after a busy shift. And anyone that's been a server or a bartender or a busser or a hostess that's worked in a restaurant and knows how it feels to get your ass absolutely handed to you.
Yeah.
And you work like a 13-hour shift. And I was telling Samantha this, it's like, that's why so many, it's like, it's an industry that not a lot of people understand, and it's a family. It's a family because you go through something all together, and then literally you can look at each other after and just like take a breath and be like, holy shit, we just did that.
Yeah.
But that's why everyone drinks.
Yep.
I was telling Samantha, I would work a 12, 13-hour shift.
Amongst other things. Drinking is probably like the least of your...
Honestly, but I was drinking after every single time. And
Plus,
this was
you have
like,
easy access to
oh
alcohol.
my God. Because you just go to a different restaurant. It's a culture, and I think that's what people don't understand. It's a restaurant culture.
Yeah.
And
well, and it is one of those jobs too, where on the job you don't get to actually enjoy each other's company as much as like, you know, coworkers in any other field or position would be able to do. So then you have to go and hang out afterwards. Plus, I feel like for you guys, it's also a huge way to decompress. Like once you're done with an insane, you know, double shift or whatever, then you can just go and like have some fun, decompress, all hang out, and do it collectively. Like that's
you just go through so much.
Well, and I don't have a good like customer service attitude either. Like if and you're so good about it. I used to love going into Dottie's and seeing, I don't know if I ever saw you at Granite per se.
That was a time.
But like I would like I frequented Dottie's a lot.
You do.
And fucking love that place. Amazing corn dogs.
Love
I love corn dogs.
Yep.
But they have the best. It's like actual Vienna sausage. Delicious.
There we go.
But yeah, and like I don't know, I honestly like feel so proud whenever I see you in there because you're just on your fucking game. And I can't do that. I don't If a customer pisses me off, I'm not nice to them. I don't smile. And like you are able to just like turn it on and do it.
But see, Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way. That's super nice. It definitely takes a person. I've been doing this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Like
Which is
I'm
actually insane
pretty much full
about.
time because I was doing at least 20 to 30 hours since high school or working at least.
You know, that's kind of
And
fucked
then
up,
it's like
actually.
I was just explaining this to everyone. I'm so drained. It's and like
It
just
is
talking about
wearing on you.
how draining it is and what you go through as a server in a restaurant. I'm so drained thin where I have no more patience. It's just ran out. It's like where I was telling people where I hate people.
Mm-hmm.
Not literally, but like when I'm outside of work, I don't like interacting with people. I don't like because what I want people to understand and how do I explain it to my friends and how I know I've explained it to you is like, imagine, I feel like meeting someone is probably the hardest thing it takes the most energy to do when you're doing
100%.
something. It's like when meeting someone new and you're trying to, and like, you know, a friend or something, that's the most energy and the most time because you're meeting someone. I'm doing that exactly.
Yeah.
You have to.
God, you're doing that with
I'm doing that constantly over and over and over and over and over and over again.
And not to mention, you're not just meeting somebody, but you're trying to make a really, really good impression because you want a tip.
Exactly, because you're working for it.
You're really working for it.
Exactly. And like the times like where I was saying before too, there are times like, and just like another thing, be nice, and that's right, be nice to your server or your bartender or whatnot, because it's like there are times where I was telling Samantha, and I feel like people don't realize this, where like you go up to like, hi, like how are you today? They literally will just stare at you.
Yep.
Don't say a word. It's like, okay, cool. And like
I can't think of anything worse.
No. Or it's like when people are like, oh, can I get you something to drink? They don't say anything. Or they say no. It's like, okay, well, how about a water? Well, yeah. Okay, well, that's why can I get you anything to drink?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm not going to assume. I'm not going to
yeah.
assume. And I think that's what people think. It's just like when, like, yeah. It's like, well, I'm not assuming because that's when, what if you didn't want that?
Right.
And I assumed, like, that's
everyone
why we're
knows
asking.
the saying, to assume is to make an ass out of you and
My
me.
favorite saying.
Yeah.
Just like ice cream for ice cream.
And I go nuts for donuts.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's just like when, like, I feel like it's like when, you know, doctors say like they're asking the questions to better you. That's why a server or bartender is asking you a question.
Yeah.
To make sure you're getting what you want because you're paying for it.
Right.
And that's another thing. Servers and bartenders have so little control, I feel like. I was telling you, like, if food is cold or the kitchen messed up, that's not the server's fucking fault.
Yeah.
The server put it in right. That's on the kitchen. Who is hourly, so they don't give a fuck if they fuck up or not.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
If, like, the kitchen's running behind
That's
or it's
so
like,
true.
that's not on the server, you know? If the bar's running behind, you know, it's just like, look at the bar. Is the bar crazy? Have some fucking sympathy. Like, we're all human.
Right.
I feel like that's what people forget. It's like...
Well, and honestly, that's a part of going out. That's just a risk you take. If you're going out to eat, that could be a part of it. You know, you can't guarantee that it's going to be, I don't know, you don't know what you're walking into. It could be a really busy night. You don't know what to expect all of the time. And that's a huge part of it, because if you really wanted to just go and make your own meal at home, you had that opportunity, but here you are.
That's what I'm saying. And it's just like, you have to remember it's their job. I remember we said it earlier, the verbal tip.
Oh, yeah.
That's you were so great. Thank you so much. I had a great time. Doesn't tips like crap. It's like, that's not paying my bills.
No.
Or granted, we had these religious people that would leave us Bible verses.
No.
Bible verses.
Another reason to just...
That's not paying my rent.
Oh, my God.
I think it's funny, though. It's just because I was talking to my therapist about it. Because obviously I was bitching, and he was like, well, it sounds like you don't like it. But I was thinking about it as, I love it. It's so much fun because I'm good at it.
It. You guys have to go to Dottie's.
Nothing I love more is like on a busy and like game night shift, or like my solo nights where I was bartending, where we would just go super busy, and like I would bitch and complain. I'd come home obviously and bitch because how busy it was, but it's so much fun. And even at Cops, my friend Lucy, she was the equivalent of my position at Metcalf's.
Okay, yes.
At Metcalf's, and her and I just talked about it because there was a time where I was just at a grocery store, and it was obviously during the pandemic. I was at a grocery store and it was so busy, and I literally was just smiling, and I could not just smile under my mask because I was like, I remember looking up and seeing lines, and you'd just be like, her and I would just be like, talk about, like, you just look and you're just like, all right. Let's do this. We're bagging, we're cashiering, we're doing whatever. We're running up and down, and it's so funny just paging on the loudspeaker, like, anyone available to come help bag. And I worked at Cops. So I think my COVID was, I worked at Cops in 2012 when everyone thought, or was it 2010 or 20, when everyone thought the world was ending?
Oh, that was a thing.
Was it 2012?
Yes.
2012.
Yeah, everyone thought that was going to be the last year of our lives.
I was working
I totally forgot
because
about that.
people were buying pallets of water. That's over 1,500 bottles of water because they thought that they were dying. And the lines were insane.
Oh my God.
And I remember it was just so funny. Just like, it's a time where it's like after the busy shift, you take a breath and you're like, damn, we just did that. You look over, I remember at cops, you'd look over and there'd be plastic bags, paper bags everywhere. All the carts would be outside. Everyone's like looking at you like, damn. Or at a restaurant where like you're looking at each other and food is everywhere. Yes. The restaurant's finally closed. Everyone stops, everyone's sitting, everyone's having a beer and something, and you look around and you're like, holy fucking shit. We just did that damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah, what an insane feeling. I guess I will say you don't get that same feeling in the corporate world.
That's not, and that's...
You just don't. It's so different. I mean, maybe you'll like crush a project or something, but nothing is as... The service industry is so in the moment. Like, you'll have those rushes or those busy moments where you just have to like go fucking balls to the walls, and you don't have to do that as much.
But you, like I said, you like times where just like you haven't eaten or hungover. That's another.
Oh, that's
another.
That is another layer of this. Okay. So I didn't go to Quivvy's a lot hungover. I must have though. I was in high school. I feel like I called out a lot of those shifts though. I was sort of a bad employee back then. Not the worst, but like, not the best. But like hungover at the bookstore, like I could do that. It was still service industry, you were still customer facing, but somehow that was a little bit better. Something about the fast pace of restaurant industry, like I can't imagine doing that hungover. And you did that a lot.
Okay, that's another thing. When we were in our 21-year-old phase, which was when we were friends at this point.
Yes. We were having the time of our lives.
We were drinking 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
It was insane. But I was working 2 jobs, and that's why I was working Granite City and Cops. That's when I went back to Cops because I needed money. Yep. So my Sundays were terrible because I would be working Cops at the brunch. I was working 7 a.m. Sunday brunch until I would say earliest 11 p.m. straight because I would work the brunch. I would bartend brunch, hungover, still drunk half the time.
Oh God.
And then go to Cops and be the closing manager from 3 to 11. Sometimes if shit would go wrong, I'd be there late. Every Sunday, it was absolutely insane.
I think that's my worst
nightmare. But the people at Dottie's, anyone that works at Dottie's knows how many times I've come in hungover and how terrible I have. Just because like now that you get older, the hangovers are so bad. And
worse.
There was times where literally
Well, and we've been drinking for a while.
We've been drinking for a while, yeah. That's another thing that we could talk, we've been drinking so our hangovers are getting really bad. There was a couple times this past Dottie's where, if like I said, our friend Claire knows what I've been through. All of the coworkers that I work with know, and everyone goes through it. Like all my coworkers, but there's definitely I feel like I could probably take the cake of just like how me and there's another girl. Her and I were simultaneously like literally cheek on bathroom floor. Yep, hungover because we couldn't move because we were so hungover and doing it. Or the worst would be like because I bartend. Is like where you'd start to smell the alcohol that you drank prior, the night prior. No. Like tequila was the worst. Yeah,
I can't think of anything worse. And I will say, hungover at the bookstore, I also had, quite frankly, the luxury of we had our own employee restrooms.
At Granite City, we did. Yeah. Dottie's, we don't. So I have to get creative with, and I was just telling my owner and my manager about how I would have to take a trash bag outside into our back.
I love that you told that to your owner and manager.
I love it. I'm very honest and open because you know it's like I'm still great. I'm still good at my job.
That's
I can still do it. It would be one thing if I'm still shitty at it, but no, there's definitely times I'm super shitty.
But like you said, everyone has those days.
Exactly, everyone has those days. But there's the employee bathroom is key.
It is. Makes a huge difference.
But there's definitely times where I've gone up to tables and I'm like, am I gonna puke? Am I gonna puke? I have to speak. I have to speak. Or just like the awkwardness.
You never know what's gonna come out, words or
But
vomit.
It has. I don't know if it's like helped or not because it's like being able to speak to people like that. But that's why I was saying I hate it now, and I think it's because I'm worn so thin. But I was just like, traveling. I was just speaking with our friend Lauren and Lawrence. There's a difference between traveling and vacationing.
That's true.
Our friend Lawrence, he loves meeting people and speak, and same with like our friend Julia, loves meeting new people out and like go and like they can go and like stay in hostels and just like meet friends. When I go out and I'm like off work, I don't want to speak to people. I want to speak to the people I go with. I want to relax. I don't want to interact with people, but just because that's my work.
Yeah,
that's what I do, and I'm so drained. so drained. And like that's what I was saying with the meeting people. I'm just so worn out where I don't want to go do that. That's not my relaxing thing. That's
understandable.
I just want to hang out with the people I went on this trip with, because there are certain people I can't even go on trips with because it's still like work. It's not like work, but it's still the same energy because you're not faking. My robot me is not who I am.
It's not.
It's not who I am.
Well, it's not, but like
it is, but it's not.
Yeah. Like I love it because when I see you, you're just so in the zone. And it's so funny. Like, if I'll go to Dottie's, there are even, especially the times I've gone to Dottie's with my parents, because my parents love Adam.
I still need to be somewhat professional with parents.
Yeah.
Know?
And like, I guess, like, I'll go to Dottie's with my parents, and a lot of the time we won't even wind up in your section or something. So then we'll just
it's because I was managing a lot when you would come in.
Yeah. So we would just see you kind of doing your thing somewhere else. And like, I would just be looking so proud, like... Look at you
it's
go.
It's just so fun. My manager, my general manager, who I was really, really close with at Granite, literally used to come up, and he was this massive 6'7" dude.
Yeah.
He'd come up and you just whisper in my ear while I would be at a table, fake. And then like my manager at Dottie's just called the robot me, and it's just like, it's scary. It's very, because it's like...
It's a flip of a switch for you.
It 100% is. It's weird and...
But it's impressive. That's a skill. That is a skill. You have to practice.
But so if anyone that's like not that close with me, I probably come off super standoffish and super like, I really don't like you. That's not the case. I'm just really tired. I'm drained. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough.
Well, okay. And so you've been doing this for 10 years. Like you said, that's fucked up. Do you feel like you're worn down?
I'm worn down and I'm ready for a break. I'm ready for a break to do it full time.
Yeah.
At least just because, like I said, it's fun. I like doing it when I don't need to rely on it.
Yeah.
Because relying on it, it's so stressful. I was telling you, I think that's why a lot of restaurant people are actually alcoholics, because it's so stressful. It's so, and all you do is drink because it's such an outlet that you do. It's like, we'll have shift beers. It's like, that is what you need to do, because it's so the only time I ever took up smoking cigarettes was when I was working at a restaurant, when I was young and working at a restaurant.
Yeah,
I was so stressed.
Be doing that. Smoking kills.
So stressed.
Yeah.
Where it's like where it's like people after work, and like I think not a lot of people get this. Like for me, it's like when I'm done with work, the last thing I want to do is interact with you. I know our friends always like, let's go out, let's hang out, let's do this. Me, I need to sit in a quiet, and this is what I literally do. I sit in a quiet room and I just deep breathe, just because it's like you're just so overstimulated, and you have to think it's like, but also I also think this is why my short-term memory is way better than I have terrible memory. But as a bartender, I have terrible long-term memory, but my short-term memory is great. Like as a bartender, we have I think like 16 seats at Dottie's. At Granite, I think we had like 18 or 20. I would go down and I would memorize everyone's drink order and food order. I could remember at Granite City, I wouldn't even have to write down people's orders anymore.
I always think that's so impressive.
Because at Dottie's it's different because there's so many different toppings. But at Granite, I could just memorize it in my head, because the short term, it would just be in and out. And that's
a skill as well.
Yeah.
Totally. That's something that you practice.
But I think that's also getting back to my point of just like, be nice to people. Servers make mistakes. We're all human.
Oh, 100%.
It's your job. Think of all the times you've made a silly mistake at your job. A silly mistake. And a silly mistake could be the server could and this sometimes computer could be wrong. That's the smallest mistake.
Yeah.
Think of the smallest mistake that you make at your jobs all the time. You have to cut people slack. And you can tell if they're genuine or not.
Yeah. Oh, of course you can. Of course you can.
Cut them slack.
Even another layer if you're a woman, because for some reason,
I couldn't imagine.
Men think that you just providing basic customer service is somehow like a flirting or like an excuse to, I don't know, somehow slide in there. Like people will leave their number, or I don't know, like, no dude, I'm literally getting paid to be nice to you right now.
Absolutely insane.
And it is different.
It's very much different.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for me as a guy to deal with service industry and customer service in general, because I personally, my new motto is I just don't give a fuck. So it's more
you
just
kind
like,
of have to go into it with that attitude.
When I was younger, if I got one bad tip, I would let it ruin my whole night.
Yeah.
My whole night. I would be pissed, literally. And that's why I would go drink. And then we would talk about it for hours. My coworkers and I would talk about, remember, it was table 18, fuck them. Hammered for hours until bar time. And I was just saying, now, it's just, you cannot take shit personally.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
That's the key.
You
100%.
have to just like brush it off. Now I'm like, okay, fuck dude, fuck whomever. It's also like,
that's hard.
Sometimes you do, like there are days like where, especially now with COVID, it's like especially when people don't tip, and it's like, really, like, come on, it's like you came out and during a pandemic.
Yeah, at this point everything is personal.
I prejudge frat and sorority people, I'll admit it.
Oh, same.
Because 99% of the time they tip like shit. It's like, and we know this is not your credit card.
And
this is your father's credit card because it is heavier than my whole wallet.
Yeah.
Like, come on now, this is your father's credit card. Come on and tip.
Yeah.
And especially if you're splitting checks, because one, there's Venmo people, and there's instant transfer. Venmo an extra 25 cents, to do that extra transfer or whatnot, and help the server out, because it's so much work to do that, especially if it's busy. But at least tip.
That's the thing. That shouldn't even be a surprising feeling. That should be the regular. That should
Exactly.
be the standard.
That should be a fucking standard.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if there's one thing to go away from this, tip your fucking server, tip your fucking bartender, even if it's to go, even if it's $1. Great.
Right. And if you are going out right now, like, you just need to take that into consideration. You should be tipping double.
Tip. And if, like we said, like the things that are annoying, because we listed obviously a thing.
Some do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts. If there obviously are times where you're going to be coming in super late or you're super hungry, just be super grateful.
Yeah. PSA. This was our public service announcement on the service industry.
Be fucking nice.
Be nice. And I love that. Okay, we'll wrap it up there.
We'll leave it as that. Be nice.
Thank you so much for
Of course.
joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad we had this discussion. Moral of the story is just be really nice. You need a tip. You need to leave a whopping tip. 20% is the bare minimum. Honestly, if you haven't had a job in the service industry, go get one. Have a little taste of our medicine, and then you will understand.
Or even, like next time you're out to eat, observe. Look around, like see if the kitchen's busy, if the bartender's busy, just be aware and think of like why might something be happening before you start to criticize and you get mad, because I feel like that'll change a lot of
a shift in your perspective.
Exactly.
Think about this podcast episode the next time you're out to eat.
Exactly.
That's the rules, and that's it. Okay, we will chat with you again next week. I'm looking forward to it. And enjoy your next restaurant experience, because you're going to be an A+ customer.
I believe in it.
Thank